Hello and welcome to the Glesga podcast, sponsored by Dragon Soup. Coming up this week, I got in front of the Queen without getting through any security checks.
I mean, that's serious. I mean, the Queen might have been assassinated when you bored her to fucking death. Pope John Paul II, there he was in the Popemobile. You remember, it looked like a giant bingo machine, do you remember? He was a bit of a lad, was all Fidel. He was poking a few women, right? He'd a few, I mean, and these are serious women. The sort of women who would spit in your face, right?
But before then, we're talking about everything failed assassination attempts.
Failed assassination attempts, absolutely. I'm amazed you're still living at your age, because I've wanted to fucking murder you every week for years. But the Scottish government made it illegal to lamp your wains. You know what I mean? You know, the wains are running wild now. You know what I mean? They're doing what they want. And the parents are like a fucking dog on a leash going, I want to kill him, I want to kill him. And then Super Nanny goes, no, put him on the naughty step. And I live in a bungalow, you know what I mean? You're fucked every whit way.
What's the difference between an assassination attempt and attempted murder?
The difference is very straightforward. If somebody tried to murder me, and I'm a man of substance and I'm quite famous, that would be an assassination attempt. If somebody tried to murder you, that would just be a murder, because you're nobody. So an assassination, you're famous. If you're not famous, it's just a murder. And it's page 7, wee bottom bit, and today somebody tried to murder, what's his face? Famous people, people of note, get assassinated. Wankers like you just get murdered.
You never had an episode of Target where somebody got assassinated, did you? It was always murder.
Well, because there's been a murder, sounds great. There's been an assassination. No, that still sounds great in a Scottish
Doesn't really
accent.
work. Right, so the most recent failed assassination attempts.
Well, it was former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Apparently, he was on the golf course, and I believe he was having a bit of a howlery around, so maybe he paid the guy to shoot him. but I don't know. Apparently, from what I read, there's this nut job who'd previously been a soldier of fortune in Ukraine, but I think he's a bit of a fanny man. Yeah, he's a bit of a fantasist, a Walter Mitty character. Apparently, he had a machine gun and various, accoutrements, and he was waiting by one of the Greens to shoot the former president, to assassinate him. So that's two failed assassination attempts on the former president. You know, he's Teflon. He's like Robert Stack's character out of Airplane. Was it Airplane? Where everybody's trying to kill him and they're always missing him. The guy, he's bulletproof. The president's bulletproof.
Well, you said former president. People might be...
Sorry, the former president. By the time this comes out, he may well be the president of the United States.
Or he may well be third time. I wasn't say third time lucky, because that's terrible, but third time...
Right, well, that's kind of tantamount to hate speech. Wishing that on the former president. Political violence is horrendous.
Aye, wishing it on anybody.
No, it's
but then,
all right.
At Trump in Aberdeen, the golf course, it's £500 a round, isn't it?
Well, you don't need to assassinate anybody in Aberdeen. You die of a fucking cold. It's freezing up there. I mean, that's the North Sea, for Christ's sake. Hey, that many golf course. Have you been up there?
I've never been on...
I've drove by it. It's freezing.
The dunes.
There's nothing. The dunes. Fucking unbelievable, man. That's who wants to go and play golf up there. You need to be half your rocker. I'm waiting to shoot the president. Oh, he died of hypothermia on the third hole. For fuck's sake.
The guy that we do our Blackfriars show on a Sunday, £10 a ticket, glesga.com for details.
What guy?
He's away. Chris, who runs Blackfriars, he's away to Trump's estate in Aberdeen for a stag do.
Is he?
Aye.
Oh, he must have money then, because it's expensive.
Yeah,
Any Trump facilities, because you've been doing in Turnberry.
I've drove by
the Turnberry Hotel. Have you been in it?
No, have you?
Oh, it's beautiful. Aye. Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's unbelievable. I mean, it was beautiful before he bought it. And then it's a world-class resort. Except it's even better now, because it's no full of Guardian reading plamps now. You know, it's no full of tree huggers like yourself sitting about fucking judging everybody. It's full of real people now. Because left-wingers don't go there. you know, because it's owned by Trump, and it's actually a cool place to go now.
To be honest, if I saw you walking through Turnberry, I'd say somebody shot who booked him in, man. Jesus.
Well,
sitting there with my shirt and tie on, and you walk in your gutties and your jeans.
Aye, very good. Anyway.
No. So Trump, so he's probably the top 5 failed assassination
The top
attempt.
5 failed. So this is one of these list shows. And at number 5, it's Donald J. Trump. Top 5. Well, he's twice he tried to assassinate him, and he's escaped. Never did he escape. He's survived.
He survived.
He survived. So is that number 5?
I would say he was probably number 5.
I see number 1. Are we counting backwards?
No, we'll count backwards.
Okay, fair enough. So he's number 5.
So he's number 5, and I would say just in at number 4, John Paul II in 81.
Pope John Paul II. There he was. He was in the Popemobile.
He was.
You remember, it looked like a giant bingo machine. Do you remember? 2 fat ladies, 88. Right? It looked like a giant bingo machine. And he was on the back here. He was in his Popemobile. And Mehmet Ali Agca was the guy. That was the guy. And he was in St. Peter's Square, and the Pope's getting drove about. He pumped the old Papa, the Pope.
That was his name. What was his name?
Mehmet Ali Agca
Wow.
was the guy who tried to assassinate John Paul II. So I don't know if he was a Rangers season ticket holder or what. Specifically, his issue was with the Holy Father. But sad. I mean, what's the Pope ever done to anybody? I mean, honestly, he's God's emissary on earth, right? But he survived, and by the way, was he a fair old age by then? No, I think he was quite young when he became the Pope, and because there was a bit of an issue because he was the Pope for years, for like 20 odd years. I mean, that's unusual to be the Pope that long. Well, I don't know. I've never applied for the job myself. I've lapsed. I'm a Buddhist now.
He was in situ that long. He had to trade in 3 motors. I don't know why I found that funny.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast because he's enjoying it himself.
So that was 81. He get assassinated.
1981.
Aye, and that was even before he came to Glasgow in 82.
That's right. He came to Glesga in 1982, and he was in Bellahouston Park. There must have been 200,000, 300,000 people. I was there that day. I mean, you couldn't see him. He was way up. I mean, it was like, I was closer to Bruce Springsteen. You know what I mean? And he was miles away, but you couldn't see him.
So who did all the family go?
No other family. Oh, my dad never went. He's no really. He'd excommunicated his cell.
To be fair, if all the family went Catholic-wise, it overflowed into Edinburgh.
Well, that's the thing. The Catholics traditionally have had big families because there was always this issue with using contraception. The Catholic Church says don't use contraception or you'll get red hot pokers up your ass for eternity. I think that was what they said, but it was something along those lines.
One shove one way and another one pops up or something like that. See what I mean? I apologise to the viewers. I'm just in one of the moods today. So we've got Trump, number 5.
Number 5's Trump.
Number 4
is the Pope John Paul II.
Pope John Paul II. How many?
Because if you watch actually the Godfather movie, Godfather Part 3, there is some suggestion, just curiously I'm putting it out there was some suggestion that Pope John Paul I, who I think he was only Pope for about 40 minutes or something, 30 days or something, and he died in his sleep. There is some suggestion that the P2 or the mafia murdered him, and according to that film,
Really?
according to the Godfather.
Allegedly.
And there's been conspiracy theories because the head of the Vatican Bank, Roberto Calvi, he was also found hanging by the neck under Blackfriars Bridge in London. Now, there was a whole scandal about the Vatican Bank millions and millions and millions of pounds had went missing because the P2 and the mafia had been laundering money through the Vatican Bank. So I think that's just interesting. But if he was assassinated, he never survived, clearly.
And then obviously the joke on Paul II, he befriended the guy who tried to assassinate him.
Did he?
He forgave him and then befriended him.
Yeah, they were clock playing dominoes in a cafe in the Vatican City. I didn't know that. Did you Google that?
I googled it.
There you go. See, he befriended him.
Well, he's a pope, he's got to forgive folk, isn't he?
Is that right?
He can't say, I'm going to hope he gets to jail. He's going to forgive him. That's what it's all about.
Fair enough. I never knew that.
Aye. So, Trump...
So he phoned him up in the jail and went, you want to come up and get some wine and bread? I've got a bit of some leftovers for the mass. Mehmet, my man. Is that you, JP? Sorry I shot you. Right, I'll come up. I'll bring in the Monopoly. Right, no bother.
I'll get them all.
Apparently the Pope was unbeatable at Monopoly.
Really?
No.
Well, they own everything. They own all the properties.
I know. But they said, don't bother me with that. That's just a game.
There's no point playing.
We're the biggest landowner on earth.
Send down that thing every week to get money off you.
Yeah.
How much did you used to donate? How much
To what?
did you put in
Who?
when you went to church?
Me?
Aye.
Well, I never gave them nothing. I never had any money. I was poor. I was a poor, impoverished person. I never had any money.
Did you take money out it then?
No, you don't take money. You don't want to rob a church. That's red hot pokers up your ass for eternity. Because God knows everything. Right. You know that way when you come home and your mom says, are you telling lies? And I'll say, oh no, man, no. Jesus is up there listening to you. It's fucking everywhere. So the last thing you want to do is pokerless St. Vincent de Paul. You know what I mean? Fucking hell. Because God clocks that.
See,
And then you go to confession anyway, because you're a Catholic. You go to confession. You're not going to get into confession and say to the guy who's a captain of the church, I robbed St. Vincent de Paul. Red hot pokers up your ass for eternity. He wasn't even Irish, but it sounds better.
well, that was the second assassination attempt because a former priest tried to stab him to death.
A former priest tried to stab the Pope to death before he was a Pope.
No, after. So this was after the 81 assassination attempt. I think it was maybe about 85 or 86.
You're joking?
No, former priest.
A former priest?
Aye, so he'd maybe been kicked
So
out.
he took it to industrial tribunal and it's not go anywhere. He's went up and seen Digby Brown and went, the Pope's just paid me off. And then Digby Brown's looked at it and says, I don't think I've got a case. So he's went, right, I'm going to get a blade. And he's flew back. Is that right? Hey, you got amazing you can find out on the internet. I never knew that.
Where there's a Wayne, there's a claim. So, but
Take that any way you want.
I take that. All right, maybe that's what he said.
We're going to have a wee break now while you hear a message from our sponsors, Dragon Soup. And we're also going to look at a few clips from our live show. What's Dragon Soup? Pray tell.
So Dragon Soup, this is one here, is a caffeinated alcoholic beverage, and you can get it in 13 flavours. And it's also available in most convenience stores and corner shops.
If you're going to drink Dragon Soup or any alcoholic beverage, please, 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 drink responsibly. You ever been to Vegas? You should go to Vegas, man. But you'd be a crack shot, man. And I'm doing that machine gun shooting. You know what I mean? And I'm taking obviously some of my own files out of me. So the targets is Osama bin Laden, and enemies of the state, people like that. And I'm going to take photos of your mother. And oh, I'll know, miss.
That was another belter of a live show, wasn't it?
Aye, well, they're going well. Aye, and there's some interesting people. It makes a change for me sitting there talking to you.
And don't forget the December shows, they're going to be awesome. So make sure you visit any of our social links or glesgadad.com, as I say, for upcoming shows. So back to
Assassinations, aye.
So Trump, Pope John Paul II, the third one, Adolf Hitler.
By 1944, most of the German high command kind of knew that the Nazis, they were going to lose. The Axis powers were going to lose the war. And they knew that Hitler would never wrap it. He would never had his hands up because everything else that had happened, they knew that they were dead anyway. So a plot was hatched to bomb him in the, was it called the Wolf's Lair? In the command centre, and he survived.
He did.
The big heavy oak table shielded him for the blast.
It was a table leg specifically.
Aye,
that shielded
it was
him.
moved up next to the table leg, and this big heavy table took the force of most of the blast. So what you should have done, they should have put the bombs in one of the bags you buy Skechers in, and you put them in that and says, hey, Herr, mein Führer, here, stick that around your neck a minute. It's all right, it's just a pair of Skechers. Oh, yeah, I like Skechers, that's the game. Because he had fallen arches, right? And then that would have done him. But no, they never thought this through.
And it singed his trousers, apparently.
It singed his trousers. I think you'll find he's probably shot his trousers. I think it was hard. It was that singe. That's shite. Oh no! I would imagine mein Führer cacked his breeks.
I can imagine there was quite a few assassination attempts on Hitler.
I don't know if there was, but that was the one. And I mean, the bomb was right next to him. So it's almost as if here's the guy. He's probably the most evil guy on earth at that time. I mean, I don't know. There wasn't a competition, right? They never had an X factor for psychos. And if you believe in everything in the world, even the will of all these officers who knew about bombs and whatever, even his top guys couldn't kill him. It's weird. It's very strange. Then, you know, it's history. They lost the war. Nazis lost the war anyway. The Allies won the war, and then fucking the Cold War.
So we've had Trump.
Pope John Paul II. And then you had Hitler. So the 5-4-3. So, Ronald Reagan, President of the United States, from 1981 to 1989, survived the assassination attempt. With John Hinckley. John Hinckley shot President Reagan, Ronald Reagan, to impress Jodie Foster. He was in love with Jodie Foster, the actor, and he was in love with her. He wanted her to notice him, so he says, "I'll get her to notice me. I'll shoot the president, and then we'll live together in Leavenworth or something, or maximum security prison."
Because he was an actor, wasn't he?
Who was an actor?
Ronald Reagan.
He was an actor.
That's why he done so well, because he was great at presenting and speeches. And
Oh, yeah, well, I suppose. It depends on your point of view. I mean, some people say that Ronald Reagan wasn't really in charge. Some people say there was other people behind the scenes. He was just the arse on the throne. But everybody else, so these people, Don Regan was the Secretary of Treasury and all that. These guys were all really in control.
well, that's just politics and monarchy. And
Well,
everything,
no,
isn't it?
it's what it is tyranny. These people are the true power and they've not been elected. That's tyranny.
Never heard of that word.
Tyranny.
No.
You've never heard of a tyrant?
Oh, I've heard of a tyrant.
Well, a tyrant does tyranny. When a tyrant's in charge, it's tyrannical.
There you go. Learn something new every day.
Right. I can see an assassination attempt on myself.
See, I never had him
Who?
in my list, Ronald Reagan.
You never had Ronald Reagan on your list? I mean, that's a very famous one. That was about 1981, 82, very early in his presidency. He got out of motor, just bang, bang. He survived. But that was an assassination attempt. I mean, the president.
Because in monarchy, like the biggest one, well, the biggest known one was Prince Charles when he was in Australia.
I don't know that. I don't know anything about that. What happened? Because you remember the woman, the Queen. The Queen was at the Trooping the Colour parade, and she was on her horse, and this guy's name was Marcus Sargent.
Aye.
Came out the crowd, and it was it was a false gun, and he just, and it was a starting pistol or something. And the Queen, cool as fuck, just went like that. What are you doing? Hey, never even flinched.
It's like the guy that climbed in her window and sat in her bed.
Michael Fagan, his name was. Michael Fagan. And he spent the rest of his days, I don't know if he's still living, he spent the rest of his days in Broadmoor.
After he did that?
Yes.
Apparently she sat and had a conversation with him.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Her bed must have been massive though, eh?
I have no idea. Her bed must have been massive.
Aye, queen size.
Aye, very good. So he ended up in Broadmoor. There was him, the Yorkshire Ripper, Ronnie Cray, people like that.
God. But he knew, apparently, because he never confessed, but he said that he saw all our Tupperware dishes out with our cereal in it and all that.
Well, he's obviously got done for the Official Secrets Act. He's letting the world know that the Queen eats cornflakes.
I never knew he'd get jailed for that though.
Right, spent the rest of his life in Broadmoor.
But he never done anything, he just climbed in our window.
Well,
How you would get in the window in the first place?
maybe it wasn't locked. I mean, it's surrounded by guards. Have you ever been at Buckingham Palace?
Aye.
It's surrounded by the army.
I got in front of the Queen without getting through any security checks.
So you got in front of the Queen,
Aye.
and she went, "Who the fuck are you?"
No, somebody whispered in her ear who I was before I met her.
Maybe you did.
So it was 2013.
Right.
It was a Diamond Jubilee Volunteering Award for the work I'd done with prisoners, right?
Right.
So they changed the venue from Buckingham Palace to St James's Palace, which is just round the corner.
Right.
And I arrived and they said, have you got ID with you? And all I had was a crappy bus pass, a first group bus pass from the East Kilbride bus I used to get to work. And it had my photo on it and I showed them my bus pass. They let me in. I never had to go through security or anything. I could have had anything on me.
I mean, that's serious. I mean, the Queen might have been assassinated when you bored her to fucking death. I mean, Jesus. What's the world coming to? MI5, sort yourselves out. Special branch, you let this fucking nut job in front of Her Majesty. I mean, he's an arsehole. You protect the royal family for arseholes like him. Hey, I tell you what, I'm writing a letter of complaint. I want something done about that. What year was that? 2013?
2013.
I'll get something done. Fucking going to get tightened up now. Going to get to a high boy. I fucking walking in with a bus ticket. Fucking ridiculous, man.
And then the other thing, see, the total flip side. So Hannah, my wife's granddad, got a OBE from the Queen and they went to Buckingham Palace and they searched under the car, right?
Right.
With mirrors. And they opened the bonnet to look in the engine and stuff. But the policeman hadn't shut the bonnet right, and when they were driving home, the bonnet flew open and smashed the windscreen, and they came off the road.
What did they get an OBE for?
For the Special Olympics.
Was he in the Special Olympics?
He started the Special Olympics with the Shrivers they were
Well,
called?
it was John F. Kennedy's sister. Aye.
So he started
it.
He created Strathclyde Park and then the Special Olympics.
Your father-in-law
My granddad-in-law would be, so my wife's
started the Special Olympics. He started Strathclyde Park,
Aye.
the prime dogging area in North Lanarkshire. I think that's also South Lanarkshire.
There's a statue.
I think that's amazing.
There's a statue.
There's a statue. It's probably covered in cum.
No. You can't say that. It was
Of course you can say. I just say that.
There's a statue, but it's not him.
It's not him.
It's like a tombstone, but it's not his grave. It's like a memorial thing. What do you call it?
I don't know. I don't really look up when I'm out there. I'm always knee deep in.
Well,
I'm always body deep in flange.
What are these things where they pull the little
mausoleum?
They turn the little curtains. They pull the little curtains and they opens it.
A plaque.
Aye, so there's a plaque that says Bernie Scott.
Bernie Scott.
Aye, that was a councillor,
Bernie.
a Labour councillor.
God bless old Bernie Scott. Thank you for the dogging area, Bernie. Thank you. The perverts of Lanarkshire. Thank you. So you were talking about Prince Charles. What happened to Prince Charles in Australia?
So he was doing a speech in Australia.
So somebody tried. Wait a minute. That was just a few years ago.
No, it was
when that nutter jumped on stage.
Well, that must have been another one. This was I think this was 86 or something. He was in Australia giving a speech and somebody tried to shoot him.
You're joking?
No, and
what
they wrestled him to the ground. So he's standing there, like, but in a lectern. This guy just runs up on stage and you hear the gunshots and they wrestled him to the ground.
So he actually shot him?
He shot
Did anybody get shot?
No, nobody get shot, but he shot at him.
Was it a real gun?
Aye. Yeah.
Fucking.
Aye.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Because there's loads of stories about, not obviously him, but Queen Victoria, people were trying to assassinate her all the time when she went out in the royal carriages and stuff.
Really?
Aye. She had like 16 assassination attempts on her.
So she must have been hard as fucking nails then. Just gonna, or maybe she wrapped herself in armour or something. I don't know. Went out in a tank.
Right, so number 1. So the most failed assassination attempts in history. Well, maybe not in history.
Well, I know for a fact that Fidel Castro, the CIA, the American government, tried to assassinate him umpteen times. I mean, there was one plot, right? Him and Che Guevara and all that, the leaders of the revolution, when they took her in 1959, flung out Batista, who was basically had turned the island over to American companies and the mafia, right, in the 1950s. And Batista was getting suitcases full of money every month, right? £1 million. And that was in 1959, when £1 million was £1 million, right? And he was getting suitcases full of money every month. And the mafia, Mayor Lansky, right, and all these people, they owned gambling casinos, because Cuba's only 90 miles off the American coast. And all the high rollers were flying out to Cuba and having a great weekend and getting mad with all the booze and everything. And all the sugar plantations that were owned by American companies. American companies were exploiting Cuba. And Batista was just robbing his own treasury and taking backhanders. The people of Cuba had nothing. So Castro and Che Guevara and the revolutionaries, they were known as Los Barbudos, the bearded ones. And they became famous. I mean, Castro was on the Ed Sullivan Show. Did you know that?
No.
In the early 60s. Castro was on the Ed Sullivan Show. And they also, the New York Times did a whole thing about Castro just when they flung out Batista, because it was a corrupt government. And he was, he was the darling of the intelligentsia. And they were all bearded and became iconic. And the CIA, what they tried to do, they tried to put poison in his shoes to make his beard fall out, because his beard was so iconic. Honestly, that's something I'd read, that they tried everything to destabilise the Cuban regime, to kill Castro, and they couldn't kill him. Even though in 1962, right, when the Russians and the Soviets put intermediate range ballistic missiles on Cuba, right, which meant that the vast majority of American cities were within 4 or 5 minutes range of these missiles, right? The Kennedy administration, in order to get Khrushchev to take the missiles out of Cuba, he had to give a guarantee that the American government would never again attack Cuba. But the CIA, sneaky bastards, sneaky fuckers, right, tried everything to kill Castro, tried to assassinate him on more than one occasion, in all sorts of fun and games.
Do you know what their top thing was to try and kill him? The top thing they tried consistently. They poisoned his cigars.
They poisoned his cigars?
Aye.
Right, I didn't know that.
Aye, they poisoned his
But
cigars.
it wouldn't surprise me. They were trying everything to do him in.
And then there's a famous story that his wife at the time, they obviously bribed her with a gun to kill him.
He was a bit of a lad, was all Fidel. He was poking a few women, right? He'd a few, I mean, and these are serious women. The sort of women that would spit in your face, right? These are serious, good-looking women. And he was getting in about a few women way back in the day. He was a bit of a sex symbol, was all Fidel. Or he was the housewife's choice.
Apparently she just gave him his gun and pumped him.
She gave him his...
So she handed over the gun and just pumped the guy.
Well, that's the sort of thing, because he had that way, apparently. He was a bit of a Lothario.
Bit of a shagger.
Oh, aye, he was knocking his nail in. That's
mostly presidents, so in royalty. There's not been any... Oh, well, the Beatles, obviously.
Well, no, well, I mean... Well, George Harrison, he had somebody break into his house and he get stabbed. And sadly, John Lennon, he was assassinated.
What was the thing recently that the guy died, the billionaire on the yacht?
The guy on the yacht was Mike Lynch and his financial director. The both of them, Mike Lynch, his yacht capsized in a maelstrom, a tornado or something. And then his financial director was out on his bike and got hit with a truck or something. So they two died in the same week. But what this Mike Lynch was on, I heard him in an interview just a week before on Radio 4. I was in the car, and he had been in America, and him and his mate had been in America, and they were charged with fraud because they sold their internet company for like $1 billion to Hewlett Packard, I think it was, or Dell, one of the big companies. And when they took the company, or they realised it wasn't as worth what they paid for it, so they tried to do them for fraud, saying that they'd overblown their accounts, and they said it was worth this and it wasn't worth that. And here he got away with it. He won his case. The case got flung out. So there's $1 billion deal went bad. He still got all the money, and this big American company are pissed off, and then suddenly the two of them wake up dead in similar circumstances and suspicious circumstances in the same week. That's a bit of a coincidence. That is an incredible coincidence.
We better watch ourselves. 1 week we'll pan to you and your seat will just be empty. It'll just be me.
No, without me, you're fucked.
So on that note, we're going to get out of here before something deadly happens. But remember, if you enjoyed the podcast, please give us 5 stars in your podcast provider, click the bell button on YouTube, and subscribe to our socials. Also, glesgadad.com for all our upcoming live tickets, or click the bio link in any of our socials. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends. But if you didn't,
fuck off.
You know what we're doing today now?
No, you never told me. And I'm not a psychic, you know that?
Top 5 failed assassination attempts.
Well, what do you mean failed? How do you know they failed?
Because they're still fucking alive.